Boston's offensive strategy has been one of the most talked about topics in the NBA this season, particularly due to the team's outstanding three-point shooting. There's no denying that the Celtics have established themselves as one of the top teams in the league, not just this season, but for several years. Their ability to hit threes at an incredible rate has turned them into an offensive juggernaut, and many experts believe they have all the tools to challenge for the NBA championship. However, one analyst has raised an interesting concern that could potentially derail their title hopes, especially when it comes to the postseason. While Boston's three-point shooting is certainly one of their biggest strengths, this analyst argues that their offensive approach, as a whole, may not be as explosive as it appears. The Celtics are exceptional from beyond the arc, no doubt about it. They've even set records for the number of three-pointers made in a single season, surpassing their own previous high. But the question remains, is their over-reliance on three-point shooting a potential weakness in a seven-game playoff series, especially when their shots aren't falling? Could this be the vulnerability that prevents them from repeating as champions? To understand this point more clearly, it's essential to consider the state of the team right now. It's easy to dismiss Boston's overall offensive pace, as they've managed to secure the second-best record in the Eastern Conference, with over 56 wins and only 20 losses. Still, this success might not fully tell the story. According to this analyst, the Celtics' offense, while efficient in some ways, operates at a slower pace compared to other top-tier teams in the league. And while the effectiveness of their three-point shooting is undisputed, the overall offensive flow is slower than teams like the Milwaukee Bucks, Miami Heat, or Golden State Warriors, teams that play with higher intensity and speed. The analyst points out that Boston's offense lacks the kind of fast break tempo that can often lead to easy baskets. They rank a disappointing 26th in the league in fast break points, and their average of 11.8 points per game in transition is the worst in the NBA. This is a telling statistic, especially considering how the game is evolving, with many teams embracing a fast-paced style of play to exploit transition opportunities. The Celtics' reliance on set plays and half-court offense could be a potential issue come playoff time, when games often slow down and every possession becomes even more critical. When you dig deeper into Boston's offensive numbers, it becomes clear that their offensive rhythm isn't as fluid as some might think. For instance, after securing a defensive rebound, the Celtics take an average of 12 seconds to get off their next shot, placing them 27th in the league in this category. And even when they manage to steal the ball or force a turnover, their average time to score following such plays is just 9 seconds. These are crucial moments in a game, and a team that takes this long to get into their offense could be at a disadvantage when facing high-pressure defenses. So, this leads to an important question. If Boston's offense is indeed slow, how have they managed to perform so well this season? How is it possible that they have been able to rack up over 50 wins and sit comfortably in second place in the Eastern Conference, despite these seemingly concerning statistics? The answer lies in the fact that, while Boston's offense may be slow, they've found a way to make it work thanks to their heavy reliance on three-point shooting. The Celtics don't play a fast-paced, run-and-gun style of offense like some of the other top teams. Instead, they compensate for this by shooting a high volume of three-pointers. And in many ways, that has worked to their advantage. Boston's three-point shooting is so prolific that they've set a new NBA record for the most three-pointers made in a single regular season. With a staggering total of 1,364 successful three-point shots, they've surpassed their own record from just 2 seasons ago, which was 1,351. This emphasis on three-point shooting is part of the Celtics' overall offensive strategy, which is heavily focused on spacing the floor and finding open looks for beyond the arc. Under their head coach's system, the team has fully embraced this style, and it's a big reason why they've been so successful. However, this approach does come with its own set of challenges. The problem arises when those three-point shots aren't falling. In fact, during this season, the Celtics have had games where their three-point shooting was simply off. When their shots aren't going in, they struggle to find a rhythm, and the team's offensive flow can quickly stagnate. This is a real concern for Boston, especially in high-stakes playoff games where every possession counts. If the Celtics are relying too heavily on the three-point shot and they aren't hitting, what happens then? How will they adapt? While the Celtics have the ability to make up for some of their offensive deficiencies with their three-point shooting, they've also had to make adjustments in games when that part of their game isn't working. One of the more notable aspects of their offense this season is that they have the lowest percentage of two-point field goals in the entire league. Despite this, they've been able to get by due to the sheer volume of three-pointers they take, but this is a risky strategy. What happens when the shots from beyond the arc aren't falling? In a 7-game series against a tough opponent, it's possible that the Celtics could find themselves in a hole, and their slow-paced offense might not be able to bail them out. This brings us to the question of how the Celtics can adapt when their three-point shooting is off. One possibility is to look for more inside scoring opportunities, but that's something Boston has struggled with this season. They've averaged 5 fewer drives to the basket per game compared to the previous season, which is a concerning trend. Without a more balanced offensive attack that includes a greater focus on scoring inside the paint, they could find themselves in trouble if their three-point shooting goes cold. Despite these concerns, the Celtics remain one of the most dangerous teams in the NBA. Their three-point shooting, when on, can overwhelm even the best teams in the league. But as the playoffs approach, the question becomes, can Boston continue to rely so heavily on the three-point shot? If their shooting isn't at its usual level, will they be able to make the necessary adjustments in time to keep their championship hopes alive? In the end, it will come down to Boston finding the right balance in their offense. They've already proven that they can dominate with their shooting, but in the high-pressure environment of the playoffs, they may need to find a more versatile approach. Whether that means pushing the pace, getting more points in transition, or finding ways to score inside the paint, the Celtics will need to make sure they're not too reliant on any one aspect of their game. If they can do that, they'll remain one of the favorites to win the NBA title. As the season continues and the playoffs draw closer, the Celtics will need to carefully navigate the challenges that come with their heavy reliance on three-point shooting. While this strategy has been effective during the regular season, it's a risky approach to carry into a high-stakes postseason. Boston's incredible success from beyond the arc has made them an offensive powerhouse. But the question remains, will this same strategy hold up in a best-of-7 series when teams have more time to adjust to their style of play? If the three-pointers aren't falling, will the Celtics have enough versatility in their game to still compete at the highest level? One of the biggest concerns for Boston is that their three-point shooting, while exceptional, can be a double-edged sword. The Celtics have been excellent in knocking down shots from deep, but when they struggle to hit from the perimeter, the rest of their offense becomes stagnant. In fact, as the regular season has progressed, there have been several games where the team's shooting from three has been off, and their offense has struggled as a result. Against some of the league's top defenses, Boston has seen its three-point shooting percentage dip, and in those moments, they've failed to generate offense in other ways. If the Celtics are going to be successful in the postseason, they need to prove they can win in different ways, not just by relying on the long ball. This means Boston must improve its ability to score inside the paint. It's no secret that the Celtics have struggled with their two-point shooting this season. They have the lowest percentage of two-point field goals in the league, and while their three-point shooting has been exceptional, they're not getting enough points from inside. One of the most noticeable trends this season has been the Celtics' drop in drives to the basket. They're averaging 5 fewer drives per game compared to last season, which is concerning when you consider how important that inside scoring can be, especially in the playoffs. When a team's three-point shooting isn't falling, they need to be able to attack the basket and create easy opportunities in the paint. Without this aspect of their offense, the Celtics will be vulnerable against teams that can lock down the perimeter and force them into a slower, less efficient style of play. Additionally, Boston's offense has been marked by a slower pace compared to other top teams in the league. The Celtics rank near the bottom of the league in fast break points, and they have the worst transition offense in the NBA. They're not getting easy baskets in transition, and when they secure a defensive rebound, they take longer than most teams to get into their next possession. While Boston's methodical approach can be effective at times, it can also lead to stagnation, especially when they're facing teams that thrive in transition or teams that have the ability to put constant pressure on them defensively. In a 7-game series, where the intensity ramps up and every possession is crucial, The Celtics' slower pace might work against them if they don't find ways to create more fast break opportunities. The Celtics also need to address their inconsistency in terms of individual performances. Some of their key players have been up and down this season, and if they're going to make a deep playoff run, they need more consistency across the board. One player who has been crucial to the team's success this season, particularly when the three-point shot isn't falling, is their versatile forward. This player has proven time and again that they can step up in moments of need, whether by penetrating the defense, grabbing rebounds, or distributing the ball. However, even this player's contributions have been inconsistent at times. If Boston hopes to succeed in the postseason, they need this player, along with other key contributors, to perform at a high level throughout the entire playoffs. This player's ability to be an all-around threat will be essential, especially when the Celtics find themselves in tight games where scoring from beyond the arc isn't as reliable. Then there's the matter of Boston's bench. While the starting lineup has been strong, the bench needs to provide more offensive support, particularly in terms of three-point shooting. When the starters struggle from deep, it's crucial that the bench can step up and provide a spark. Boston has a talented group of reserves, but in the past, they've been inconsistent when it comes to providing the kind of scoring that the team needs. In the postseason, the Celtics will need their bench to contribute more consistently, especially when the starters aren't hitting their shots. Having reliable bench players who can come in and knock down three-pointers or create offense in other ways will be crucial to keeping the team's offensive flow intact. In terms of adjustments, it's clear that the Celtics will need to find a way to balance their three-point heavy approach with more inside scoring. They can't afford to be one-dimensional, especially against top playoff teams that will be able to exploit any weaknesses in their game. The Celtics must find ways to generate more points in the paint, whether through driving to the basket, creating pick-and-roll opportunities, or simply getting more offensive rebounds. This will not only give them a more well-rounded offense, but will also make them harder to defend. If they can maintain their proficiency from beyond the arc while also diversifying their scoring attack, the Celtics will be much more dangerous in the postseason. Another important factor will be the team's ability to adapt when their shooting isn't on point. There will be games in the playoffs where the three-pointers just aren't falling, and in those moments, the Celtics will need to rely on other aspects of their game to keep them competitive. Whether it's finding ways to score inside, pushing the pace to create easier opportunities, or simply leaning on their defense to generate offense, Boston will need to be able to adjust and not become too reliant on the three-point shot. The Celtics' defense has been one of their strongest points this season, and they'll need to continue playing at a high level on that end of the floor to make up for any offensive struggles. Boston has one of the best defensive ratings in the league, and their ability to lock down opposing teams has been a major factor in their success. In the postseason, where every possession counts and games tend to slow down, Boston's defense will be critical in keeping them in games when their offense isn't clicking. As the playoffs loom, the Celtics are certainly one of the favorites to make a deep run. However, for them to succeed, they need to address the potential weaknesses in their offense, particularly their reliance on three-point shooting. If they can find a way to balance their offensive approach, create more opportunities inside the paint, and ensure that their bench is providing consistent scoring, they'll be a tough team to beat. Boston has the talent and the pieces to make another championship run, but they must make the necessary adjustments if they want to avoid being exposed by teams that can exploit their offensive limitations. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. The screen flickers as the camera zooms in on an exclusive, explosive video. Jayson Tatum, the NBA's rising superstar, could be facing a devastating year-long suspension after a bombshell rumor has begun circulating across basketball circles. The speculation, which initially seemed too wild to believe, now threatens to derail the career of one of the league's brightest stars. With whispers of a doping scandal surrounding the Celtics forward, fans and analysts alike are left wondering, could this really be the end of the line for Tatum in the NBA, at least for now? Sources close to the NBA's internal investigation suggest that Tatum may have failed a drug test earlier this season. The exact substance involved remains under wraps, but what is known is that the results have raised more than a few eyebrows. The NBA's anti-doping policies are notoriously strict, and a violation of this magnitude could lead to a lengthy suspension, possibly up to a year. If confirmed, this would mark a dramatic fall from grace for the Celtics' cornerstone, whose leadership was pivotal in their recent championship run and his record-breaking All-Star performances. Tatum's track record, filled with accolades such as his 2024 NBA Finals MVP and his role as the top scorer in the All-Star game, only makes this news more shocking. Fans have witnessed Tatum's unparalleled drive to succeed, and his off-court image has been just as spotless as his on-court achievements. That's why the sudden emergence of this doping controversy has left a trail of confusion and disbelief. As one of the most marketable and beloved athletes in the NBA, Tatum's potential suspension would cast a long shadow over the entire league. The timing of this rumor couldn't be worse for Tatum, who is poised to dominate once again after signing the richest contract in NBA history in 2024. If the suspension rumors turn out to be true, the Celtics could be forced to reorganize their strategy without their star player for a season, throwing a wrench into their title defense. The Celtics front office, as well as their fans, are anxiously waiting for confirmation, hoping for a miracle that would clear their star and preserve their championship aspirations. With so many questions left unanswered and no official statement from Tatum or the NBA yet, the basketball world is left on edge. Could this be a smear campaign, or is the doping allegation just the beginning of an even bigger scandal? As the investigation continues, one thing is for certain: Tatum's future and possibly the Celtics' championship hopes hang in the balance. Stay tuned. This story is far from over. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.